Welcome to another episode of the YXE Sports Podcast for the week of November the 23rd. Hope everybody is doing well. A big thanks to everybody that's tuned in on the Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar Facebook page, the YXE Sports Podcast Facebook page. We're on No YXE, and a big thanks to everybody listening to the audio version of this podcast as well. As you can see, we are, of course, once again in the friendly confines of, my friendly confine of the home office. Doyle says, hello, everybody. Hi, Doyle. Hope all is well. Doyle, you're really going to love our guest today if you haven't already. And let's not waste any time bringing him in. It is Lee Kormish who will join us once again. He joined us once at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar. He is now from his home office, home man cave, whatever you want to call that. But Lee, thanks so much, man, for taking some time here tonight.
You bet, Matt. Thanks for having me.
So I'm not going to steal any of your thunder here. I'm going to let you do all the talking because you have a pretty big announcement that you just emailed Ian and myself earlier this week. So why don't you take our listeners and viewers through what the opportunity you have in front of you here is at the end of the month?
Yeah, Matt, I received an exciting email just a few days ago here. I've been working with the FIFA fan engagement team for the Qatar 2022 World Cup for the last few months. They've been consulting me on, preparation on what fans look for when they go to a World Cup and what type of things that fans require and need to enjoy their stay when they go. So with that said, they chose 40 people from around the globe to go to Qatar this week. And I received news that I am one of those 40 fans. I'm the lone Canadian on this trip, and I don't think there's any Americans as well. So I'm the guy that they've chosen to be a fan leader. I'll be flying out to Qatar this Friday. We'll be attending the opening ceremonies of the Arab Cup, and FIFA usually runs a pre-tournament to the World Cup to get the country warmed up and exercise everything that they need to do so that when the World Cup comes, it's smooth sailing. So with the FIFA Confederations Cup being canceled, what they've done is they've replaced this year's tournament with the Arab Cup, which are a bunch of Middle East teams, some Northern African teams, and Asian teams. So I'm so excited, and I guess that's the news that I'm announcing today.
No, and that's why we brought you on. We're going to talk about a few other things, obviously, as well. But this is the big story. So when I woke up to that email from you, I texted Ian right away and said, we got to get Lee on before he leaves. Good thing you had lots of time to prepare too, right? I mean, they sent you the email last week and it's like, hey, you said in the email you're flying out on, you think it's November 27th or something like that?
I just received flight details yesterday, and I'm flying out this Friday at 1:30.
So there you go, this Friday. Doyle says, congrats, Lee. Holy moly. Yeah,
thanks,
that's
Doyle.
Awesome. You mentioned how you're the only Canadian, the lone Canadian out of the 40, and you're not sure, you don't think anyways, that there's an American. Just kind of, if you could put that into words and what it means, for you to be the lone Canadian and potentially the lone North American on this trip.
Yeah, first of all, I'm honored, absolutely honored. I've been such a hardcore soccer fan since the mid-90s. I've got my poster here from World Cup 94. That's when I fell in love with the game. And I've just been so passionate, and I've been blessed to attend the last 4 World Cups. And so when they saw my resume and how many games that I've attended, there's not a lot of Canadians that have traveled to World Cups simply because our team has not qualified since 1986. So the thing is when me and a couple friends over the World Cups travel, we're always neutral fans. And, we wear our Canadian flag proudly, but, we just we're kind of laughed at almost. We're not a soccer nation. And so we're just everyone's nice to us when we travel because we absolutely bring no threat to when we travel to these World Cups. But it's so special. Even coming from Saskatchewan, rather than having someone from one of the big cities across our country. I love our province and I love Saskatoon. So it's nice to have not only Canadian representation, but Saskatchewan as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I mean, you think with Vancouver and Toronto and Calgary and Edmonton, where the World Cup qualifiers just were. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It is amazing that somebody from little old Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, is going to be able to make it there. You talked about how you kind of had to put in a little bit of a bid. What was kind of that application process like? What were kind of the hoops that you had to jump through to even apply, let alone have it be successful?
Right. So the supporters club for Canada that supports the national team is called the Voyageurs. And I know I have a friend on the Voyageurs that's at the top. He's from Regina, and he called me and he said, Lee, you know what? I think this would be good for you. You should put in your name. So I did, and the organizing committee called me and said, hey, Lee, let's set up a Zoom call. We want to get to know you, and we want to, tell us about your World Cup experience. So I was on a Zoom call with them about 3 or 4 months ago, and we talked for about 30 minutes, and they said, yes, absolutely, we want to include you in our fan engagement team. Now, that team they chose 400 people around the world for the engagement team. So what they wanted to do was whittle that down to 40 for the people to actually attend Qatar. So what they wanted from us is to have some type of activity here at home and then report on that. So what we did is we created a Mexico versus Canada watch party for when they played the World Cup qualifier in Azteca Stadium a little while ago. And we had 20-some people show up, and I took pictures and I reported on that. That was part one. Part two was a 60-second video submission proving that why I should be going to Qatar ahead of, a bunch of other people that wanted to go. So I created the 60-second video. I included my World Cup trophy that's behind me, the poster behind me, a number of other relics and different things that I've collected over the years as World Cup fans. I put that together on October 9th. And so I thought I had missed it. And then when I started receiving the emails that I was a finalist, and then just this past few days ago that I was actually going, I was excited. I was a little bit shocked, but completely thrilled.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I'm glad you mentioned that the World Cup trophy in the background just over your shoulder there, because Ian wants to know what that trophy you have in the background is. So like you said, it is kind of a World Cup trophy, but how did you come to acquire such a thing?
Yeah, I've had my eye on getting a replica World Cup trophy for a lot of years. They can sell for $200, $250. This one here actually was my dad. He found it. A guy in North Battleford had it somehow, and we ended up making a little offer for him. And surprisingly, my father of all people, who's a game hunter and a hockey fan, found my trophy for me. So I kudos to my parents for looking out for me.
Well, that's exactly it, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. They know, parents know everything, right? So it should be no surprise that your dad was able to track that down. I'm just looking at the email that you sent Ian and myself from earlier this week. The other thing that you had mentioned in this email is that your group will be part of the opening ceremonies along with a number of other scheduled activities. I'm not sure if you kind of have all the details about what that's going to look like, but two-part question, I guess. What's it going to be like to be a part of the opening ceremonies for something like this? And, maybe if you had some information on what some of the other scheduled activities are, you could take us through those as well.
Yeah, so we had a Zoom call. When I was actually in our Edmonton hotel, we got all 40 of the people around the globe on a Zoom call. And it was so neat because you've got a Japanese person who doesn't speak English, so they had an interpreter. We had a number of Spanish people, Latino people. We had a number of Africans, a guy from Algeria, a crazy guy from Colombia with just a yellow and blue mohawk. I'm telling you, it was pretty neat to be joined by 40 other people like myself on this Zoom call. So they were going through some of the activities. The opening ceremonies is a bit of a bonus. We are going to tour the stadium that day. Then we're going to go to the first match of the tournament, which is Qatar versus Bahrain, so the host nation. And there's a mention of us being involved in the opening ceremonies. What that entails, I'm not sure. Maybe they'll just, give us a round of applause saying we've accumulated, crazy fans from around the soccer world. So I'm not sure exactly what that'll include. There's also an optional desert tour. So absolutely, I said yes to that. So it's I'm not sure what that will include either, but everything's happening in Doha, Qatar. And from what I've heard, Doha is just a fantastic city. They sent us a link of the hotel we're staying at, and it's about a $300 a night hotel, and it looks very, very Middle Eastern. So I've never been to this part of the world, and I'm excited that the World Cup is coming there, and the experience this week coming up. I can't put into many words, but excited is the number one.
No, that's absolutely true. And even just to be part of those opening ceremonies, right? I mean, how many, if you're any sort of sports fan, whatever sport it is, growing up, for me anyways, I was always watching the Olympics, right? And I always just thought how cool it would be to be a part of an opening ceremony, right? You're in the stadium and, you're representing your country. And I guess for you, even though you're not necessarily competing in the World Cup or an Olympic event or anything like that, you can still have the opportunity to represent your country because, that's kind of how, one way that you could look at it, right? You are representing as the lone Canadian, but that's fantastic. So, that's it's going to be awesome. You're also documenting the trip as well. Where can we find those details of your trip?
Yes, absolutely. I run my own YouTube channel, so it's simply Lee Kormish, and that's Kormish. But it's just go to YouTube, Lee Kormish. It's a World Cup channel. I have a lot of local content on there as well. During this week, I want to do a preview, and then I want to do one video each day. So we'd be looking at about 5 to 6 videos of this trip, depending on how it works out. So, but Matt, I was going to say, I contacted the Canadian Soccer Association and I asked them for something to be able to give to all the other people. So they've messaged me back and said, yeah, we're going to send you a package of Canada Soccer, souvenirs and type giveaways. So I'm excited to share, and make some new friends and have a little gift while I do it. Canadian style, right?
Yep, for sure. We're all about hospitality in this part of the world, right? So no, that's awesome. Of course, we are, we're not live at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar, but the podcast, which is sponsored by Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar, is, of course, still live. So big thanks to everybody that's tuning in. And even though we're not live at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar, still go on down Thursdays, Sundays, Mondays. They're all football days at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar in Saskatoon. So make sure you go and visit them at on the corner of Circle and Idlewild Drive. Make sure you head in there for all things football, all things sports related. Lee, I actually don't know the answer to this or not, but I'm assuming you were in Edmonton last week. Is that correct?
Yes. As soon as the announcement was made that Edmonton would be hosting a pair of games, we started making arrangements right away. We went up the Thursday night to go up for the Friday game. We then drove back, and it was an absolute, as everyone knows, a snowstorm, later on Monday and all day Tuesday. While we were grateful and blessed to be able to drive up Monday morning, so we missed that snowstorm. A lot of friends here in Saskatoon sadly had to turn back and didn't even make it to the game. So we're pretty happy that we had a group that did make it to both games, Costa Rica and Mexico. And Matt, if you let me talk about those two games, I would be excited to do that because I experienced was fantastic.
Well, no, absolutely. We'll get into that. But first, I want to know just what the atmosphere and what the buzz was like kind of just around the city, for when you were there. And then we'll get into the kind of the nitty gritty of the two of those games. But kind of just run me through what the experience was like being in Edmonton and kind of what the atmosphere was like and that sort of thing.
Well, I tell you, I've been to a number of games in Edmonton over the years, dating back to 1995 was my first game. And you never really felt a buzz in the city for any of those matches because there wasn't a lot on the line. They were, Canada had played in Commonwealth Stadium many times before, and you would get 11,000 to, I think the highest was 24,000 fans out to the game. and you would only feel the buzz inside the stadium. But yet, when you've got 24,000 is the highest attendance there, and it seats 55,000, that's not even half full. This time was a completely different experience. The first game against Costa Rica was 48,000 people, and you could tell everyone in the stadium was gathering and just waiting, in anticipation for something exciting to happen that night. And, Costa Rica played a highly tactical defensive game, and they nearly came away with the result of 0-0. But, our team, when you're good, you find a way to win. And that's what our team is able to do now. So, we had a ball into the box, and the keeper, who was their backup keeper, their starting keeper, didn't make the trip because he had a bit of an injury. And so he dropped the ball right to our superstar, Jonathan David, who plays his professional soccer in France right now, was able to pull it back and just tap it pass it into the corner to make it 1-0. And that stadium absolutely erupted. It was so good. So Matt, if you want to say something, then I'm going to go on to the Mexico experience.
No,
after
I was
that.
going to say the floor is yours, because I think everybody, if they weren't at the game, the people in Edmonton weren't at the game, they were probably watching, myself included. So just kind of take me through what a wild ride that whole evening was.
Okay. So for when you're in Commonwealth Stadium, behind the one end zone or behind the one goal, those seats are usually empty for an Edmonton Elks game or for Canada Soccer. But when I looked over there this time, it was absolutely packed. The amount of people in that Commonwealth Stadium, everyone's bundled up. It was absolutely jam-packed. And so for the Mexico game, when we showed up, there was 3-4 inches of snow covering the lower level of seats. I've got some amazing pictures from this. But the first thing everyone had to do, the ticket master, you couldn't print your ticket, so everything was on the phone. And there was so much trouble with people trying to get in with their Wi-Fi connection, phones freezing, phones dying. It was -9 degrees when we got there. It felt like -16. And we finally got our tickets up, and we got scanned in. And yeah, that stadium was just full of snow, except for you could see a beautiful green pitch in the middle with all the snow covered up on the sides. And I'm like, this is going to be absolutely epic. And not only were we playing a World Cup qualifier, we were playing a World Cup qualifier for first place in the group against the giants of CONCACAF, Mexico. Mexico was in town. So the stage was set for just something explosive that evening. And that's exactly what we got. When we scored that first goal, first of all, Mexico came out really chippy. There's a lot of fouls. They were really trying to, quiet the game, but they could not handle the cold. And not that our boys play in that type of weather all the time, but a lot of these guys grew up in this type of weather in Canada. So they've experienced it. They know it. We know how winters are in our country. So we just needed someone to make something happen. And when Alistair Johnson, he's our defender, he stole the ball in the midfield, dribbled it, and hammered a shot. And it just ricocheted off that field turf in Edmonton. And being so cold, the goalkeeper from Mexico is a world star. He's a fantastic keeper. But Ochoa wasn't able to palm the ball away. He actually saved it, but it had skipped so hard in front of him that he put it right out in front of one of our players. And Kyle Larin was able to pounce on it and put it in the back of the net. And that stadium absolutely erupted to be 1-0 up on Mexico. And then, we made it 2-0 later on, Matt. And we're just coasting. We thought, this game is done. I got to tell you about the fans, because I've never seen in Edmonton what I've experienced. The amount of hockey jerseys, Sidney Crosby, Canadian, it brought out the neutral fans. It brought out the sports fans that follow winners. Canadians love winners, whether it's tennis, whether it's golf. Mike Weir wins the Masters. You got Bianca Andreescu winning the U.S. Open. That's when Canadians really back our players, back our teams. And for me, now it's soccer. For the first time in my life, our Canadian men's. Like the women's paved the way. The women were able to make 3 straight podium finishes, and then winning the gold, which I still can't believe that we have the Olympic women's gold medal. And now our men's team is in first place in CONCACAF. If you would have told me that at this stage, just a couple of years ago, that we would be first place at this point in World Cup qualifying, I'd have said, Matt, you are crazy. You are out of your mind. It's not even possible. But I got to talk about our coach, John Herdman, a little bit. This man is an absolute genius. He has taken a losing mentality, a losing squad for a number of years, and he has changed the mentality. He has brought in all the players together. These guys Canadians used to fight in camp. When they went to Starbucks after the games, you'd have half the team sitting on one side, you'd have half the other team going to another restaurant. There was no camaraderie, there was no unity. John Herdman has brought everyone in. He's got them all bought in. Our training, from our coaches to our, everyone's on the sidelines. We've got an army of Canadians on the sidelines on that bench supporting this team. And after the games, he brings this team all together. And the huddles, I would love to be in those huddles listening to what he says, because when you look at the eyes on these guys, they are 100% committed to this program. And, Mexico brought it in the last 5 minutes and scored a goal in the 90th minute. And then there was 5 minutes of added time. And it took an unreal save by our goalkeeper to preserve that win 2-1. I'm telling you, Mexico nearly stole that match 2-2, but we ended up winning it 2-1. And that would have wrecked everything if Mexico would have tied that up. But, the experience of having thousands of Mexicans in that fan going home as the losing side against Canada, soccer, never, so this team is not only, doing things that no other team has done before them, but they're doing it confident and they believe in themselves. And we're 8 games through to the World Cup. We've got 6 more games to go, and it's going to be a tough battle, but I'm extremely confident that we will qualify for the World Cup for the first time since 1986.
Yeah, so I was just about to ask, kind of what are the next steps that Canada has to complete in order to qualify for that 2022 World Cup?
Okay, so we're sitting at 16 points, and we've got the Americans at 15 points, and then we've got Mexico at 14 points. And we should be good as golden here to really go through, but this pesky Panama side is hanging around. And they keep winning these road games. So Panama's sitting at 14 points as well. So we've got 6 games left. The nice thing is we're the only team that's done with Mexico. So USA still has to play Mexico. Panama still has to play Mexico. And Panama still has to go into the United States. So Panama does not have an easy schedule whatsoever, but they hang around and they've been winning the games that they need to. Now, Matt, if we're able to win 2 games out of these last 6, at home, and maybe get a couple draws, we should be solid enough to go through. But, the way these other teams are playing, it just seems like we need to keep winning. Here's the neat part is that, and it's almost the scary part, is of the very last game of this competition is in Panama City. So we need to qualify before that, or else we'd be going into Panama City in a 1-game playoff against the Panamanians. And we do not play well in Central America. Maybe that's different now with this team because we've got to go to Honduras still. We've got to go to Costa Rica. We've got to go to El Salvador. We've only played our road games in USA and Jamaica in the Caribbean and in Mexico. So we haven't played any games in Central America, but that has been our downfall in the past. So we've beaten the Giants of CONCACAF. We've tied the Americans on American soil. Now we need to go into Central America and win a big game.
Sitting pretty, I would say, if you're Canada. Obviously, the work is not done, but you look at it so far, and definitely some things to build off of and some things to look forward to. Lee, the opportunity of a lifetime for you is coming up, and probably that's going to be an experience of a lifetime. And the experience that you had in Edmonton last week sounds like it was one for the ages as well. Before I let you go, I kind of just want, some people have been asking if there's any update on this team in Saskatoon. I'm not sure if there's been any kind of headway or not, but if there has been, you would know it. So why don't you kind of just take us through where we stand there?
Yeah, that's right. I've had a lot of questions on where the Canadian Premier League team is at for Saskatoon and where the soccer stadium is at for Saskatoon. And I can't go into too much details, but I can tell you that things are on track. It's just a lot longer track than we had first anticipated. So with that said, we've got a few more hurdles to clear before we can put a legitimate and highly attractive presentation in front of City Council. So that presentation, we were looking at doing that here in the past while, but now we're looking, I believe we're delayed until March. And like I said, we need to meet a few more requirements. So over the next few months, we're going to be gathering the, club and teams and fans and supporters groups together, to arrange a group of people that are going to go and talk to City Council and tell them why, so many reasons that we should build a soccer specific stadium in the city.
No, for sure. That's like you said, the track is a little bit longer, but you're still on track, right? So that's still something to be optimistic and positive about. Just give us that YouTube channel link one more time, Ian. We'll put it back up in the bottom of the box here for everybody watching the webcast. But if you're watching or listening to the audio version of this, it's www.youtube.com/C/Lee Kormish, KORMISHL. We'll be sure to follow along, Lee, on your journey next week, but just the opportunity of a lifetime. So I appreciate you taking some time to let us know what you're going to be up to here.
Hey, Matt, you know what? When I got Ian's email that I got to talk about this, I got pretty excited. So I'm so happy to share
while you're at it. Okay.
For sure.
All right. Sounds good, Lee. Thanks a bunch. Take care.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah. Have a good day.
This has been another episode of the YXE Sports Podcast. Just like I said, the opportunity of a lifetime for Lee Kormish, and can't wait to see what he's going to get up to while he's down in Qatar. So this has been another episode of the YXE Sports Podcast. A big thanks to everybody who watched the webcast version. A big thanks to everybody who listened to the audio version of the YXE Sports Podcast as well. And of course, we are on a new day for those of you that want to watch live. So make sure that you now tune in on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock as opposed to Mondays. We will talk to you next week.